What's up, everybody? Michael Silva here to do a technical analysis update on the S&P 500. We're going to go over the daily and the 30-minute time frame today. And the reason why we go over the 30-minute time frame is really to get a good sense as to where the market might be heading the next day. I do these updates every day. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe, smash that like. It's appreciated. So what do we got going over here on the daily? Well, we see this big gap up. Again, when do gap ups typically happen in the market as of lately? Well, it's been happening when vaccine news come out. And Novavax began human testing for COVID-19, and they expect results in early July. So that is part of this gap up. And I believe that when the futures market started heading up towards that, there's also news around the economy opening. But today was really driven off FOMO, in my personal opinion, and probably many others. People want to be part of the market in the move up, and they do not want to miss on the chance of making some money. So it broke through the 3,000 level on this gap up and basically hit a high at the beginning of the day and started moving backwards. Now this kind of looks like a inverted hammer. I mean, once again, it's not like this gigantic one where it reached all the way up to 3,100 and moved all the way down, but you know, it is an inverted hammer. It's somewhat bearish, but we'll talk more about that on the 30-minute time frame. So as I see it, this range right here, this 3,000, so it ran into the 200 period moving average. The 200 period moving average is something that I keep a personal eye on, because when you trade intraday, you do see bounces from that specific area. So I always just have it on the chart, and it gives me a good idea as to where the market is heading, an overall context of the chart. I also pair that with the 50-day moving average. Now, as you can see, it's really just flat. And as you notice, what's been going on really in the markets? Well, nothing. It's been pretty much going sideways. So when I look for support and resistances on the daily, honestly, it's right here at 3,000. This is nothing new. I feel like I say this every dang day. 3,000 to 3,100. There's a lot of chop going on in this area. So this right here is going to be that big resistance zone. We can call it the bear fortress. Let's just actually write that in. See, there we go. There is right there the bears camp. That's where they're hiding out, in this little area. And in order to get the bears triggered, well, the bulls are going to really have to destroy their camp and just fight more towards the upside. But there's so much more resistance even at this level, right around 32. I'll just say 3250. I'm not being exact with the numbers. I'm being kind of around the round number, just so you know. If you want to look at the exact number, you can just go to the chart, you know, on TradingView, what I use, and you can look at it. But 3261, then you have the gap fill right there at 3225, and then also the very top 3392. But I'm looking at this as the main setup, right? This is where the camp is set up. And then the bulls camp, well, the bulls camp is kind of just all over the place. Yeah, I would say the bulls camp is really in this range right here. Let me go ahead and write that in. So there you have it. This is the bulls camp. Now it's obviously a little bit bigger. There's just so much pressure up in this area. Then you have the bears camp right up here. So really it's going to be probably within this big range here for quite some time. I think it's going to be ping-ponging around still. I mean, this up at this point, this kind of a reversal type looking candle is bearish, and I'll get into that on the 30-minute time frame. But I just wanted you to kind of see visually, like, hey dude, where's the bulls hanging out? Where's the bears hanging out? And yeah, it's a pretty large range, right? 2639 up to 2857. But watch what happens when I draw out the Fibonacci retracement. Look, when you draw out the Fibonacci retracement level, clearly the bulls camp, this is at the 38% retracement level, so pretty spot on to that. And then you have the zone at the 50%. It's been bouncing off in there. I could even lower technically the zone more down to that range, but I mean, it shows that it's been kind of acting as resistance in certain areas up here. So I'm just doing it as a pretty big zone. And then you have the bears camp right up here. It's kind of floating within this range. I would say, yeah, you can even bring it up to this 78% retracement level as well. But it's really gonna take a lot of work for the bulls to start really pushing it past the bears camp and destroying their little fortress there. So it's going to be an interesting battle between the two. Let's go ahead and hop into the 30-minute time frame, because what you'll see in the 30-minute time frame is a more clear picture as to where the price action can move tomorrow. All right, so here is the 30-minute time frame. As you see, this big gap up, and then on the very first candle of the day, right here, it hit its high at 30.21. So it got to push all the way above that 3,000 marker, and then basically got rejected and pushed back and moved sideways. for pretty much the remainder of the day until the last 30 minutes. And this is a very interesting play. If you were watching this play out, you could have entered in a really nice short position here, right actually pretty much at this level. So as you can see, it gapped up and then it tested here, which acted as support and moved up. And then when it started moving down, now this was at the end of the day, so you'd probably be holding this overnight if this was the case. But when it broke this previous support, it then broke down and kind of flushed through that. So where do we see the price moving now? Well, this is definitely going to be an area of resistance. And right here will be an area of resistance as well. So we have 30.21. If you want more data points, you can really honestly move this one down just a tidbit more. I would say resistance could be right here too. So let's say 30.15 all the way up to about 30.22. Okay, but we'll just put it right here for now because there's more data points on these wicks. So we got 30.16. We have as resistance, right? We have 3,000 as resistance, almost spot on. As soon as it broke below it, look at that flush, and then moving down towards the end of the day. And now where is the support going to take place? The support will be right here at this level, 29.79. Let's just call it 29.80. Yeah, let's just call it 29.80. Like I said, it's never just a specific line. It's always a little bit of a zone, okay? You never know what's going to particularly happen, but I know that for a fact a lot of traders' eyes will be on this support, because if it breaks it, there's very well likely that it could come down and push further. Now, another area level that to keep an eye on for support would be the gap close. So I would say right in this area right here, there seems to be a lot of data points. I would say 29.59 down to 29.55 is going to be another area of support. That's where the window for this gap up would close. And then our next level would be obviously the 61% retracement level at 29.36. So what do I think is going to be happening here? Well, we have a lot of bulls in their fortress. However, because of how the day ended, we saw a big push to the downside. And keep in mind, it was overall in low volume for the day. It's been lower than usual volume, and I think that's really just because of the FOMO. And if you look at the MACD down here, it is crossing over. It's kind of lost its steam. It is still above zero, but it does potentially look like it's going to be starting to move and cross it downwards. Now, how I personally would play this is, one, you might see a retest up to this level, this 3,000 level, and I'd be just keeping a close eye because you could technically do an intraday short-sided entry at that point and have a tight stop loss. Or if it retests up in this area, you can also have a stop loss, at 3,025. Which is the high basically of this candle right here is 3,022, but you can maybe put it a little bit higher just to give it some breathing room. Now, if you do get in here at 3,000 and have a stop loss at 3,023, you got to understand your risk versus reward. What I mean by risk versus reward here is you need to only risk a small amount to potentially gain a large amount. This is what makes traders successful, is that they manage their risk relative to the reward. So it broke down here, flushed to this point. Typically what we might see is a retest. Who knows in this type of environment, but this is something you'd want to watch out for. So there's this resistance here and there's this resistance here. And then also there's one more that I would like to point out is kind of this little trend line right here. Now, that might not really necessarily be in play, but it is worth noting because of the top here and then kind of like bounced around this area and then broken down. So if it does break above this, we might see the push higher and higher. So I'm just going to draw that on there for now. But as far as a good risk versus reward trade goes, say if you wanted to play the back test here, or potentially if it moves up a little bit more, well, you'd want your stop loss above the candle right here, the first day's candle of that high, because it was the high. So 3,021, let's say if you're going to put a stop loss at 3,025, okay, so I'm going to draw out your risk box. All right, so let's say if you were going to enter in this range with this box right here, okay, this is your risk. You'd be stopped out up past this or at the top here. But this is where your entry would be right here at this basically 3,000 level and potentially a little bit more in here, or you can stay below this trend line. You could do it a couple of ways, but let's just say this is your risk, okay? So you're willing to risk from 3,000 to 3,025, so $25 per move or per share move right there. Then what you would have to look for is to see if your reward is going to be if it's going to be worth that kind of risk. Now, for example, if your risk versus reward is going to be 3 to 1, let's say if it continues moving downwards, it breaks through, you're going to be betting on it breaking this support here and then closing the window. Okay, so would that right here give you a relatively good risk versus reward? You'd be risking this much to potentially gain this much. Well, that's not quite 3 to 1 right there, which is something that I personally like, is seeing the 3 to 1. So what you could technically do in these situations, one, I mean, you can technically say, hey, no, I'm actually thinking it's going to be coming back down here to test. Now, if you did do this, this would work because you would have, you'd be risking this red box to potentially gain these 3. And each level here can act as maybe a price target. So this level here, that level there, and then this one right here. So if you enter in basically, like I said, through this area right here, and then the price does start moving downwards, you can maybe take a little bit off the table right here, right, at this first level of support, maybe right before it, so just in case if it does bounce back. And then if it does break through, you can take off a little bit more here at this level at 29.55, and then you'd sell your third share here and then let your last remaining share work itself out for you. So that's a way potentially to manage your trade within this type of environment. Now, obviously you want to stop loss because who knows, who's to say where the market's going to really head, especially with these type of market conditions that have been going on and how it's been being driven. But that is what I have for you on today's video. We mapped out the support, we mapped out the resistances, we looked at the camps on the daily, and yeah, overall, it does look like it's going to be pushing lower. It was FOMO driven, low volume, but time will tell. If the bulls can break through that bear camp, then yeah, we might definitely go test the high. It's anybody's game at this point. So that's all I have for you today. See ya later.